Welcome to Purpose 360. I'm Carol Cohn, and today more than ever before, companies, brands, and their partners need to stand for something beyond the bottom line. I've created this program to provide insights and ideas to share with you so that you can apply them to your work the very next day. The goal here is to uplevel your purpose and to benefit companies and society. So please join us. Chipotle. They have a very clear purpose, cultivating a better world, and their values support that purpose. We believe that food has the power to change the world. In today's segment, I have the wonderful opportunity to talk to Laurie Schalow, who is the Chief Corporate Affairs and Food Safety Officer for Chipotle. Almost 3,000 locations with the goal to double over the next few years. They were founded in 1993. They have over $6 billion in revenue for the year 2020, almost 100,000 employees. They're public, and they just love what they do. We're going to learn in our conversation today with Laurie about how her distinctive historic role in communications, in reputation, in food safety, in public affairs, all unite to ensure that cultivating a better world is deeply embedded in all the areas of the company's operations, culture, community engagement, food quality, and such. Chipotle has enlightened leadership. Their new CEO, Brian Niccol, who spent most of his career at Yum Brands and as well his initial training at P&G. So he knows operationalizing, he also knows embedding, and he knows the fast casual and QSR world. But he also knows, especially in the past few years, that people vote with what they buy, where they buy, what they consume, and what they support. And that's why cultivating a better world is not just a slogan. And you're going to hear from Laurie the many, many ways the company is embedding their purpose across the company. So this is a rich conversation. I know it's going to make you hungry for more. So let's begin. Welcome to the show, Laurie.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
We're thrilled to be here. We love the food, but love your ethos and your commitment to sustainability. There's a lot to learn here, so we're just going to jump into it. You have had a very incredible career in terms of working in QSR and fast casual. Why did you come to Chipotle? And then another question, because a lot of our listeners want to know, how do I get to have the same role as Laurie? So a little bit about your journey and what they need to know to sit in the seat you're in.
Okay. Thank you, first of all. It's very nice of you to say. Right. So I spent over 20 years at Yum Brands, which is the parent company for KFC, Pizza Hut, and Taco Bell, and worked across those brands and on the global business, and had an opportunity there to oversee sustainability, which I just loved. It was very exciting to see how that was evolving. And especially we had over 40-some thousand restaurants at the time, and the impact that we can have. So, I spent many time there, but always I looked at Chipotle, which was who I admired, and thought, how do they do that? I mean, how do they source locally? And, how do they have this impact? And I was very jealous of it. So when the opportunity came about, I was very interested in talking with the founder, Steve Ells, for this role, which was a brand new role for the company. They hadn't had a head of public affairs at the time. So I spoke with him, and I just, it was a dream job for me to work for a company that was built on, like you said, the ethos and the purpose of what we now call cultivating a better world. that was just a dream for me.
And so it probably wasn't too difficult for you to leave. And I mean, Yum is great and Yum does amazing things. But Steve Ells, what was it like working for Steve Ells? He was one of my heroes back in the day. He still is.
I was going to say, hopefully he still is. He's amazing. The history is just incredible, right? That, 27 years ago, he opened a Chipotle restaurant in Denver, Colorado. And his intention was to open a restaurant, save some money, and then have a fine dining restaurant. He's a chef. He's culinary, trained chef. But he's also an entrepreneur. And when Chipotle just took off, obviously he never ended up going into the fine dining and stayed with Chipotle. And so for 20 plus years, when I joined the company 4 years ago, 20 plus years, we had over 2,000 restaurants. Just amazing that an entrepreneur and a chef, was able to bring the brand to that level. And just what struck me, and it still holds true today, is again, staying true to that purpose of food with integrity. And Steve always said, real food, it tastes different, right? And how food is raised and how it's grown and how it's treated across the supply chain, it makes a difference in how it tastes. And so that's been really important, and we've kept that alive. But Steve is just an amazing entrepreneur. So lucky to have had him running the company for so long. And then, a couple of years ago, he decided that he wanted to step aside and bring in a new, CEO to run the business and take it to the next level. And so in came Brian Nickel, who I also knew from Yum Brands, who again is just an amazing business person, but also very passionate about the purpose, and is just picked up right where it left off. And that's where we're really seeing the growth and development in the company.
Well, we'll get to that in a moment. Your background is, I just want to dive into that a little bit more. You've got communications, reputation management, public affairs, food safety. Now that we're in a transparent world, again, recommendations to anyone listening. Is that the career path to go in? Can there be some different flavors of it? And what really is serving you today in this role that you have at Chipotle?
I do have a very interesting role, and you probably won't find anyone else with that title because it's an unusual combination. So I have the traditional public affairs focus around, internal and external communication, sustainability, and then social listening. But then added on, I also oversee our customer service and employee services, and then food safety. And the food safety piece is normally the one that people say, and it's because 20 plus years at Yum, I spent a lot of time on crisis and issues management, leading those teams and working in the food industry that, I learned a lot. I'm very passionate about it. And more importantly is, surrounding myself with experts, but making sure we have process and discipline in place. So when a crisis or an issue happens, whether you own one restaurant or 50,000 restaurants, you're going to have issues. And so making sure that you know how to handle that. And so that was very important to me. And bringing that process and discipline here to Chipotle, it just made natural sense. And that's what, quite honestly, attracted me to Chipotle, is the opportunity to oversee, more parts of the business and really, just expand, my career in that way. And I've just really enjoyed it.
And I'm curious, how many people on your team?
I have about 70 people across my team.
Okay. You just had a whole bunch of listeners who went, "What?" I mean, oh my God, she's got so many on her team. So that's really, really great. And I know that, we represented McDonald's way back in the day, and I know that they had the same mantra that one store and one challenge, and it goes just global. So that's quite wise in terms of that point of view. Let's turn to your purpose. And your purpose, cultivating a better world, you've had that for quite a long time. So we'd love to know where it was developed. It sounds like it came from Steve, if I'm not getting too far off base.
Right.
And it truly is your true north. And I really suggest to all of our listeners, you got to go on Chipotle's website. You've got to read their sustainability report, because these guys are the real deal. And we're going to get into our conversation. But how does this get interpreted for your food, for your operations, for your supply chain? I know that's a lot, but I'm just going to let you riff.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Yes, our purpose is cultivate a better world. And, that means different things. And everyone interprets a little bit differently of how that applies to them, whatever part of the company that they're in. But you're right that it was originated from our founder, Steve Ells, who, again, said that, it really does matter how food is treated, how animals are treated, and it just tastes better. Real food tastes better. And in fact, today we have 53 ingredients on our menu, and that's it. And they're all things that you have in your kitchen. So, and they're all prepared fresh in our restaurants. Nothing is frozen, anything like that. No preservatives, no antibiotics. So that's been very, very important to us. And we call that food with integrity, right? And so we spend a lot of time with our farmers and with suppliers and making sure that they are also, upholding to those standards that we have. So that has been our true north. And what I love is that we've built a culture around that. We've built our values around that. And that's how we live, making all of our decisions, here in the company. And what we say is the more we grow, so as we can open more restaurants, we have about 3,000 restaurants today, mostly in the US. We'd like to double that number. And so the larger footprint we have, the more impact that we can have. And so, that's why we spend so much time and resources investing in farmers. And we know we need more farmers, especially young farmers, to come in, to help provide this local sourcing and these organic products that we need in our restaurants.
And I know that you have some significant programs to support young farmers as well as local farms.
Right.
So why don't we just talk about that now, and then we'll go back to cultivating a better world.
Right. And so you mentioned our sustainability report, and we did an abridged version this year, so you don't have to read 100 and some pages.
Thank you.
Check out a short sample. But in there, we do talk about the importance of local sourcing and organic ingredients. And so in order to do that, we know that with the average age of farmer reaching in the 60s right now, it's very difficult to maintain those generations, passing on the farm through generations. And so what we did several years ago is we said we really want to invest in young farmers and in farmers. And so we have many different partnerships, but specifically with the National Young Farmers Coalition, and helping them through, grants and both, financial resources and other resources to make sure that, we are helping them be successful. And we want to make sure that we have enough farmers out there who can produce enough ingredients for us to, sustain in our restaurants. So we made a $5 million commitment several years ago that we're still going through, but that is utmost important to us. And that it's really important that, consumers also understand where their products come from. And traceability and transparency is so important. And that's where you get into that local sourcing.
You talk about food has the power to change the world, and that you use the word real a lot. So can you talk some more about this power that you see? And obviously you're investing in young farmers. And we're going to talk about your new film coming out. That's really exciting. But can you talk about how you bring real to life besides farmers and local?
Sure. We try to be very transparent and talk about the real ingredients that we have. And you'll see that in our restaurant, right? So, or if you're in the app, we have pictures of the actual ingredients when you're selecting, whether it's our salsa or our corn salsa or our barbacoa, whatever it might be. And in the restaurant, it's right there in front of you. So you can see the real ingredients. You can see someone, cooking on the grill, chopping vegetables. So that all happens, we call it's very orchestrated in our restaurants. Hopefully you hear and see and smell, the aromas when you walk in. So that is important to us, that we do focus on real. We do think that's a differentiator for us and what sets us apart of those real ingredients. So we're very proud of it. We're also very transparent with that. And so, in our restaurants, it's very important that we bring the sense of real ingredients to life. But you talked about, real food having the opportunity to change the world. In fact, we ran a Super Bowl commercial to do just that, saying, can a burrito change the world? That was an opportunity for us to showcase to everyone that, in fact, what you order, what you eat, what you put in your body, and if you care about where it came from and how it was sourced, it really does have an opportunity to change the world. And so whether it be, just from a wholesome nutritional standpoint, supporting young farmers, supporting these local individuals who have, built their livelihoods on that, or from a climate change perspective as well. So that's all very important. So we tried to bring that to life in our Super Bowl commercial this year, which was really fun.
It was really fun. And we're going to append a link to it in our show note. But I love it because it's got a brother and a sister. It is just so fun. It's got a brother and a sister, and he's saying, can a burrito change the world? Change how plant things and grow things? Improve the dirt where we grow? Save water where we use it? How we pick things, move things, and transportation things? And then she goes, there's no transportation things. I mean, it's just lovely. What was the response to it?
Oh, it was incredible. So first of all, that was our very first Super Bowl commercial. So we had never done something like that as a brand before. And it was our way to come out. I mean, we hired a new chief marketing officer shortly after I started. We brought in Brian Nickel. And just being more transparent, bring more in the front foot. We didn't change the amount of money we were spending on advertising. We just changed the way we did it and what we were saying and where we were showing up. And the focus has been to be a lot more relevant and making sure that our brand is being seen where consumers are today. And so we've focused a lot more on social media and other, programs and platforms that have gotten us noticed, which has been really great.
And I love the sign off.
For real.
Yeah,
Yep.
for real. That was great. I noticed, and you report this, that in your comp plan, that you tie your leaders to KPIs that are related to, not all, but some to sustainability. How did that come about? And how was that driving behavior change?
So this is the first year we did that. We announced it earlier this year. And basically, like you said, with 10% of our leadership team, our CEO and our executive leadership team compensation for their bonus is tied to ESG goals. And we divided those out into, our report is food and animals, people, and the environment. And so we have an ESG goal around each of those. And if we meet it at the end of the year, there'll be a 10% of the bonus will apply to that. And the reason that came about was, we've talked about it a lot, and we want to show that it's not just words, right? We can say things and put words on a page, but we really wanted to put, our money where our mouth was, if you will. And so we know that if we have that lens when we're making business decisions and we're thinking about ESG and we're thinking about, the goals that we're trying to achieve, you have to act differently. And so really showcasing that we're going to, put our performance against it and to hold us accountable as leaders, and that trickles throughout the organization. So that's why we did it. It was very fun. Actually, we're in the process of thinking about what is our year 2. We do plan to do it again for next year. And that was also something our board encouraged us to do. So that was in partnership with our board of directors.
So what was the response from your leadership? And how far down does it go into leaders, maybe it's managers within your company?
Yeah, right now it's just our CEO and all of his direct reports. So it's our executive leadership team that is held responsible for and accountable, from the budget perspective and the bonus perspective. But certainly sustainability is all throughout the organization, and the goals that are set, that's definitely cross-functional event.
It's a terrific step. We can't wait to see what you're going to state in year 2. Let's make a turn towards, again, food safety. Traceability and data are core to your transparency commitments, especially in regards to food safety. Following, and there have been, you're in the food business and issues happen, especially in 2015. So can you say how you've embraced data and technology to make food safer?
Sure. One of the things that I was pleasantly surprised and very impressed when I first joined Chipotle 4 years ago was the traceability program that we had in place. So we had partnered with Food Logic, and we have the ability to trace product upstream, to the farm. So where it came from, and then we follow its distribution throughout. So if there is a need to recover product, we're all familiar with, I'm going to knock on wood because this time of year, there's always a romaine lettuce recall and we're out of salad everywhere. And that normally happens as you're transitioning product from California to Yuma, Arizona. And so it's been critically important for us to be able to trace that product and understand when there is a recall, is it in our system? Where is it? And then we can quickly recover it. We have a dial-out system that all of our restaurants can be notified immediately. We have a way to track and make sure we can quickly, pull something out of our restaurants if we need to. But traceability, transparency, and then using that data, we use it for many things. Certainly, if there's a crisis and we need to recover that, but also we showcase, that information to our consumers. We want them to understand what is sourced locally, where it comes from. And so there's many ways that we're looking actually and using that data and bringing it more to the forefront with consumers, other than us using it internally for tracking purposes.
Considering the droughts and the fires on the West Coast this year, and then also droughts in the Midwest, how have you responded to that? That makes planning really difficult.
Our supply chain team has done an amazing job. So there's the environmental factors you mentioned with fires and floods and things, but then even just the supply chain in general right now is so challenged, right? With COVID and labor shortages. I'm here in California, and so I look out in the ocean and see all the cargo ships lined up for days and weeks, right? So all of our Christmas gifts are out there sitting in the ocean. But our supply chain team has done an amazing job to make sure that we do have the ingredients that we need and we have the supply chain full. One of the things that help us is, to be honest, is our food with integrity. And because we have those long-term contracts and because our guidelines are so stringent, that's helped us make sure that we can maintain that supply chain a little bit better than some of the others. So we really haven't seen many outages. We've been very fortunate, and we can shift and pivot when we need to.
I want to turn to Brian, because you have an enlightened CEO. And so many of our listeners are going, oh, I wish I had a CEO. They always say like Paul Pullman or Steve Ells. And now they're going to say Brian, because he's truly bringing amazing operational approaches, and he's the real deal. So do you have any suggestions to your colleagues, if they don't quite have an enlightened CEO, what they can do to try and educate the CEO and the C-suite so that they can move along their sustainability journey?
Yeah, Carol, you were absolutely right that I definitely won the lottery when Brian Nickel came on board, because, it's one thing to go into a company that has some practices in place and you go through the motions and you support it, right? But he is the real deal, and he challenges us. I'll give you a really good example. So we recently just set our science-based targets and announced that we're going to reduce our scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions in partnership with the SBTI by 2030. And so as we were, we're working with our leadership team and our cross-functional partners. And so we went to say, okay, we're all going to commit to doing this, right? Because it's going to take a lot and it's going to take resources to get there. And Brian, right away went to, this is great, because we had to tell him we set these pillars up and, how are we going to achieve these goals before we make this public commitment? Because we are we want to make sure that when we say something publicly that we have a plan in place to get there. And so he says, we can spend a lot of time and resources and with renewable energy and doing this and doing that. He says, but we need a disruptive category. And he said, you know what? Sign me up for it. I want to lead that pillar.
Really?
So we had our 4 pillars of our core teams. And then he's like, I want a disruptor category. And we're going to think different. We have to think about things that, maybe we need to buy our own, land and create windmills and that'll source the energy in our own restaurants. And so, but that's the way he thinks. And so I know you don't have that everywhere. And so your question was, well, how do I, enlighten that? And I think it's one of the things is making sure that you are, whatever your product is, making sure that yourself, your leadership team, and certainly your CEO can touch and feel that experience. So for me, and again, this was Brian also insisting that we go out and visit our suppliers and visit the farms. We see the difference between, pigs that are raised conventionally and how they're kept for the time that they're alive, versus being able to roam freer and have that, have the access to land that is so important. And we do believe that it does make the product taste different, but getting onto the farm. So if you can take your CEO and make sure they're meeting with suppliers, they're seeing the impact that you can have, or maybe also show them the impact in a negative way that if you don't change, what might happen, and hopefully you can win them over that way. But I do think they have to believe in the passion and the purpose. And that's one of the things that attracted Brian, like many of us, to Chipotle, is to work for a company that already has that purpose built in. We're not trying to find the purpose or create a purpose. It's there. So how can you just flourish it?
So we're going to go into some more of the areas of your purpose and its execution. But what are some of is there a challenge left? Is there a mountain for you to climb? Is there a barrier that, I've been hitting my head against the wall?
Oh, there's plenty. I think that, especially in the world of sustainability, it's, there's so much more we can do. There's so, our footprint, well, again, we only have 3,000 restaurants, so it's not huge, but we know that that does impact the environment. And when we look at the different areas, so we talked a little bit about environmental and with waste and, energy and things we can do there. But then think about people. And that's really important to us. We're a people business. We have 100,000 employees. We are all company owned, which also makes us very unique. We're not a franchise model. So these 100,000 employees who we can provide direct resources to, and that's been really important and critical even before COVID, but more so with COVID, and making sure that from a benefits perspective that we're helping them with whatever they might need, certainly mental health, financial health, our debt-free degrees, whatever they might need. And we try to pulse our employees all the time and see, how we can help them, how to better assist. And that's how we came up with things like, we will help them with getting, besides the college degrees, but English as a second language for them and their family members, and employee assistance available for them and their family members if they just need someone to talk to. So that's super important to us. And then certainly around, with food and animals. But there's so much work to be done. And even these science-based targets, to reduce 50% of where you are today in a relatively short period of time, that's a monumental challenge that, we're putting those in place. I think that's what I think is our biggest charge right now. And that will be over the next, say, 8 years or so.
How did you create a debt-free degree program? I mean, I know how Starbucks did theirs with ASU, and I commend you for having it. But how did you get it together?
Oh, we found a great partner in Guild Education. And so they help us administer this. And we're constantly adding new degrees and new universities, but we definitely partnered with them to help us orchestrate it. And, they do all the heavy lifting, and we just communicate that out. And it's one of the draws that helps us, especially in today's tight labor market, boy, you can, work at Chipotle and we'll help pay for your education as you're coming along. So it's a win-win, certainly for us from a retention standpoint, and then obviously for employees. And we want to see them fulfill their educational dreams and then go on to do whatever they'd like to. Hopefully they stay at Chipotle, but certainly whatever career they want to pursue.
And you do have a lot of programs that are focusing on employees. So how is your turnover compared to others? I bet you're a lot lower.
Well, we hope we are, and we believe we are. We also did increase wages, this year. So that was a big help. We were already paying above the minimum wage, but we announced that our average wage was going to be $15 an hour for employees, plus all the great benefits. We didn't mention the free food that we offer too to all our employees when they're on, they get a free meal every time they work and discounts. But, it's a challenge. And I think that what we call employee value proposition is really important, especially in today's tight labor market, to make sure that you're offering not only the base, wages that everyone's looking for, career advancement, benefits, perks, whatever it is that goes along it, but more importantly, that culture. Right? You have to get up every day and want to go to work and want to feel good about the work that you're doing. And that's where, even if you're coming into our restaurant, you're serving the guests on the front line or you're chopping vegetables in the back, we want you to know about our purpose of cultivating a better world, and that what you're delivering to guests is helping us achieve that.
And it sounds like your employees do recognize that.
Yes. And that's what we try to communicate to them and share with them, and all these great, films and commercials that we share those as well, because we want them to feel as good about it as we do. And so there's, we call our corporate offices restaurant support centers.
Nice.
Everything we do is here to support the restaurants and those employees. And so we know that, and part of our values is, my favorite one is the line is the moment of truth. And what that means is when you get in front of our line, literally the line in the restaurant, or if you order digitally, that's where it all comes to life, right? You've got to have the products looking great, tasting great. You have the smiling employee, as you go down the line, and you just have that great guest experience. So that line is a moment of truth, and everything that we do to support them and get that product there and help them with training and all that, that's where it all comes to life.
That is so smart. How did you address the pandemic vis-a-vis store closings and then supporting your employees?
We created a COVID task force, which unfortunately, we're still meeting 3 days a week. In the beginning, it was 7 days a week. So I guess that's an improvement. But we've created a cross-functional task force, which, I still sit on today. And it's critically important that we, are addressing everything as they come. And it's ever changing. But the good news is, in the early days, we really, because of our digital business, and so thankful that, Brian Nickel and our chief information officer, led the charge in digital because we were able to pivot very quickly from digital was 20% of our business. That flipped almost 100% overnight. So while we had to close down our dining rooms and guests couldn't come into our restaurants, you could still order through our app and order digitally and come and pick it up or have one of our delivery drivers take it to you. So fortunately, we didn't have to close a lot of restaurants. We did close about 100 at one point think about malls and universities where they were just completely shut down. But for the most part, we were able to keep our restaurants open, keep our employees employed, and offer assistance pay and extra benefits, everything we could do to support them during that time. And then fortunately, pretty quickly, we were able to reopen and get things back to normal. But again, we did everything by our values. We followed our values when we're making those decisions. But the way we did it was through a really incredible cross-functional task force team that, like I said, still meets today. And we're following along with all the changes and still waiting to see what's coming next.
Here's a little known fact that unless you read your sustainability report, you wouldn't know that you upcycle 60,000 avocado pits into natural clothing dye. So I'd love you to tell, like, what? So I would love you to talk about food waste. And you have this initiative called Chipotle Goods. And so again, disruptive, forward-leaning ideas to deal with upcycling and food waste.
Right. And this is what I love our sustainability team, which is part of my group, that they're always thinking creatively and looking to see, again, where can we have an impact? So, we do things like not sexy, but dumpster diving, right? And you want to see where is the waste coming from and what's the waste that's accumulating. So there's two stories I'll tell you very quickly. One is first, we wear gloves in our restaurants, all of our employees, and we wash hands right now every 30 minutes. So, or if you do a different task and you change. So that's a lot of gloves coming on and off, right? And going into the landfill. So when we recognized that waste, we said, well, what could we do with those gloves? So we created this gloves to bags program. We found one of our suppliers who is an amazing partner and said they wanted to help just like we did to eliminate some waste in our restaurant. We have those plastic gloves, those used plastic gloves that our employees are wearing. And then we send them to a supplier who converts them into trash liners. Think of your bags that you line your trash cans with in your restaurant. And so they're repurposed that way. So it's that closed loop of you took something that would have just gone to the trash, turns it in a trash liner, and it's reused in our restaurant. So again, just a creative way to solve that. And then avocado pits. You are right. We are known for our guacamole. And yes, it's extra. Yeah. It tastes extra. So, but because we go through so much guacamole, we have a lot of avocado pits in our restaurant. So again, when you're looking at food waste and saying what's accumulating and what can we do about it, the team, again, tried to look for creative solutions for that. And one of that was through our Chipotle Goods line, which is a merchandise, our Chipotle swag, as we call it. And they created, and they're so fun. It's my favorite shirt. It sells out all the time. And we have sweatshirts and that too, but they're made out of the dyes from the avocado pits. And so, and we help, we have fundraising behind that. So all sales, the proceeds go to help organizations and farmers and that as well. But that was one solution. We're also looking at things like how do we take the avocado pits and maybe put them into cutlery, so that we use in our restaurants. So again, always looking for creative solutions when we see there's not a bottleneck or a problem, but how can you do better, right? When you have a lot of waste because the volumes are as high as they are. And so we're always looking at things like that and seeing how we can, have a nice impact.
And where do those ideas come from? Do you have okay, we're going to take it to the innovations team, or is innovation so baked in across the company that anybody can come up with an idea?
Absolutely. So we don't have a separate team, a creative team. Certainly there's a lot of creative minds, but for the most part, it's the teams just diving in and seeing, if you see something and then you think, well, gosh, how do I get to that solution? And we try to help people think creatively, have the space. And when you just put like minds together, it's amazing what people can come up with, and our agency partners. We have incredible agency partners and suppliers who also will get in a room and just banter around like, okay, here's what we're dealing with. Now, what can we do with it? And you get to these great solutions.
And another very interesting idea is real food print. So can you share with our listeners what that is?
We thought it was really important for consumers to know the impact that they're having based on the food that they're purchasing. And so when you order in our app or on our website, it will tell you based on your order, the impact that you're having. So how much water was saved, how many, what was the environmental impact of the ingredients and the products you put together? And it's comparing against conventional, so what are we comparing it to? So again, that food with integrity, the way that we raise the products and the ingredients that we use have those built-in savings. And we wanted to share those transparently with consumers. And so we found How Good, which is our partner, and through the Real Food Print. And again, leveraging that traceability and the technology that we have to be able to share that and showcase back to a consumer so they feel good about it. When you place that and you go, wow, because I ordered this burrito, I saved X gallons of water or whatnot. It's pretty cool.
And it's very cool. So you have these amazing programs. Do you measure their breakthrough to your customers? And I know our listeners are going like, oh my God, I'm asked about measurement all the time. How do I do it so I can really understand what's moving the needle?
Yeah, I think it's important for us to, we measure ourselves. So we have KPIs. Certainly we have goals in our sustainability report, just like all of your listeners do. And that's what you're charging toward, right? And those are tough goals, and you have to take actions to get there. But it's important also, to your point, that consumers also see the impact and feel good about it. And that's where the transparency comes in. And we have to showcase that. And the Real Food Print was just a good example of, that, look, we can't do it alone, right? We need you when you come into our restaurant. Choose the right receptacle to put so we can compost or we can recycle. And so consumers have to help us. And so, we want them to understand that they're as much a part of the problem and the solution, and working together, we can have a great outcome. But we try to be very transparent and share that. And then, they do tell us what's working, what's not working, and they'll bring us ideas, which we love that too. And,
that's great.
A really good example is we're rolling this out is in our app, especially with everybody now orders delivery and take home, right? Well, how many forks and plastic knives do you have in your drawer at home, right?
Too many
anymore.
Right.
So why not give consumers the option to opt out of cutlery and napkins, right? Saves on waste, saves on cost, and feel bad about throwing it away, and because you have utensils at home to use. So that's just another great example of an innovation and that's something we hear from consumers a lot. They don't want it. Like, I feel bad throwing it away. Don't give it to me. So that's something we're looking at.
I totally feel bad throwing it away.
Yep.
So right. That is so real. So thank you for the opt out. Let's talk a little bit about the Chipotle Cultivate Foundation. What are there are a lot of programs, but you've talked about young farmers and such. But what are your favorite programs in the foundation? The
Cultivate Foundation, we created an Illuminaries program, and basically that is a program. It's in its third year right now, and we bring together a small group of these growth-ready ventures. And these are individuals. Think about startup companies. So these aren't ones that are just thinking of an idea sitting in a garage, right? They actually have a product or a process or something, a service that is just ready to take off, right? And it's something that fits within our ethos, meaning, they're supporting farmers, they're helping with land use, they're helping with tax issues, or sustainable sourcing, plant-based products, different things like that. So we find these ventures, they all apply, and we go through a long process. And we put together almost a year-long, Illuminaries program for them that they'll go through, and we give them resources, mentorship, access to, executives here at Chipotle, but really try to help them build their company so they can be successful and ultimately help companies like us achieve our objectives around sustainability and our food with integrity. So, I've been able to meet some amazing ventures and things that they're trying to do. There's one that we're working with right now. I'm actually mentoring that, they grow green, think about cilantro. You can grow it right there in the restaurant. And it's this, through their, I forget what they call their casing and all that, but think about, these, you hear about the container ships and things like that, where we're now growing green products because we don't have, as much access to land, and we have the environmental issues you talked about with floods and fires. So this is a very contained way for us, for example, to grow cilantro. Pretty interesting and innovative, but that's what the foundation supports. So in addition to farmers, Illuminaries and ventures and people that are really going to help us move our mission and our purpose forward.
do the luminaries have to offer you their invention first, or is it more of a thought leadership and a rising tide rises all ships?
Yeah. And in fact, we won't partner with them initially. So we want them to go through the program.
Oh, good.
Get the resources, but they do not have to support Chipotle. And because it is funded and serviced by the foundation, which is a separate 501c3. So they're not meant to be working for Chipotle or to come up with an idea for Chipotle. It's really to help solve the world problem, whatever it might be they're trying to solve in the food and ag space.
Oh, that's lovely. I love that. So talk about love. In 2011, you had this amazing TV spot, Cultivate a Better World. And it was just beautiful. And I don't know how many years you used it, but guess what, listeners? Those gorgeous characters are coming back. So this is a very timely conversation because you're unveiling a new short film. I think it's November 16th. That's correct. And it's called A Future Begins. So can you talk? I know Laurie's smiling ear to ear on this one. So for those who you can't see, but tell us a little bit about it and how it came about. You're talking 10 years later from the original.
Right. The original title, Back to the Start, and it was 2011. So a lot of listeners, probably the young ones, don't even remember what it was. And so Willie Nelson sang the song for us, and it was all about, farming and how it really is. It's so hard. It's such a hard industry. These farmers, they work 365 days. There is no break. There's no holiday. The cows need milked. Everything has to happen every single day. They very, very rarely take a vacation. And so we had this film, Back to the Start, and it was it won all these awards. And it was great. It was 10 years ago, right? And so fast forward to today, and this is something we've been talking about for years, but we're so excited because we're just about to finally launch A Future Begins. And so it's a new film, an extension of that one. So you'll have the same animation, but it again talks about how the future of farming is at risk and why is it at risk. And it's that, the parents have worked so hard on the farm and they raise their children, they go off to college. And a lot of times the kids don't want to come back to the farm because boy, is it hard. It's hard work, right? They want to sleep in, right? They want to have a Saturday off.
Yeah.
So, and this is part of even what we do with our Luminaries project is, it doesn't have to be that hard, right? And through advancements in technology, they can leverage, even in the new film, you'll see the farmer takes out an iPad, right? And is using that on their farm and solar panels. And so, leveraging these new technologies to not only make it easier, but certainly more efficient and a sustainable farm, for them. So it's a great film. I'm so excited once we finally launch it and that people will be able to see it. But hopefully it'll be eye-opening, that people have a better respect and understanding for the challenges that farms face. And I will tell you, the biggest problem that we hear from farmers and with those who want to start farming is access to land. And so that's one of the initiatives is we actually want to try to change the Farm Bill in 2023. So you're going to see and hear a big push for us to change legislation so that the government will help protect farmland so that we can have more local farmers and we can do more organic and local sourcing that'll help sustain not only Chipotle restaurants, but anyone else who wants to purchase those types of ingredients in the future. So super excited for that to come out.
And then you also have another partner in a Carhartt.
Yes.
Who is, so that's very exciting too. So you don't always have to go alone.
Right. So Carhartt is going to provide some merchandise for us. It'll be pretty cool and fun. And we'll be selling some of the things in the film that you see, through Carhartt. And again, proceeds benefiting the National Young Farmers Coalition. And so, but really the farm, I think, helping others join us in this collaborative effort around, saving the future of farming is what I hope that we can strike that emotional chord and that people can understand it. If you haven't had a chance to go to a farm or if you weren't raised on a farm and but you enjoy those fresh vegetables and the products that come, hopefully you'll support it and sign up as well.
So that's, again, you're putting not just your money, but your hands,
right.
And your innovation and your creativity. So that's wonderful. Do you get inspired by somebody else? Not perhaps in your industry, but anybody that you say, wow, there's this little tiny company that inspires us for some of our thinking, or, I'm just curious about that.
Sure. I read and I'm on social media and look a lot. So I always love when I find a great brand that is just doing something innovative. So to me, it doesn't have to be any, I'm industry agnostic, if you will. It can be, in the food industry or certainly someone else. But, there are some great brands out there that I've always admired for different reasons. Right. And so some of that might be in the environmental space. Patagonia comes to mind. But others, I like to look, how are people, how are companies treating their people, and what are they doing? I love innovation, right? So if they can do something different that gives a competitive advantage, I'm always like, oh, why didn't we think of that, right? And so, at Chipotle, we always want to, you always want to have that leadership position and be the first to do something and have the most impact and be most relevant. So when I see another brand doing that, I just love to learn from that. But if I see the example, I'll then bring that back and say, okay, was there anything that we can do today? What if I looked across that platform, whatever it might be, and how could we apply that here, but do it maybe a little bit differently, right? Or put a little spin on it. So I love to see what others are doing. I think we have to all work together to be more innovative, be creative, and collaborative. I think COVID taught us one thing is that, it's okay to have cross collaboration across even competitors, right? And especially around sustainability, that is something we all have to get together and support. And that's where we're going to have the biggest impact. We can't do it alone.
Absolutely can't go it alone. You know what I've seen in some of our interviews and my friends in the industry is that when they have the multiple hats that you wear, internal, external, public affairs, food safety, et cetera, that they bring a more holistic and strategic view. And then the work that comes out is amazing. And one that I'm thinking of, which our listeners probably don't think about, is Scott's Miracle-Gro, because Jim King, and we just did our second interview with him, and he is wearing all those types of hats, not food safety because they're growing plants and vegetables, but he's wearing many hats. And so again, to our listeners, if you want to get closest or in the C-suite, there are many different roads you can travel within the company to gather the background, to truly be in a position where you can influence policy and operations and such. So it's really interesting. This has been a great conversation, and unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap it soon. But we always like to ask, Laurie, do you have 2 or 3 insights that you want to share for people who, gee, I wish I had Laurie's job, or they're on the journey to Laurie's job, in activating, embedding their purpose as well as their sustainability journey?
So I'll share 2 things. One is just from a career perspective in general, is that, if you're looking to get to the next level, you have a job you're aspiring to, my advice is to, bring to the table something they didn't ask for, right? I love people on my team who say, you didn't ask for this, but, or I thought about, wouldn't it be cool or great if we tried this? And the other thing is, grab those projects and programs that nobody else wants to do and make it your own, right? So I think you can take a project that people are like, oh gosh, nobody's successful with it, or it's kind of a pain. Grab that and show that you can be a great leader and how you can put your spin on it. And the other thing I'll say is that, in our industry and sustainability in companies, and, Coca-Cola is another great example that I look at and be leading sustainability over there, is that you can't just have a sustainability team and think, okay, we're going to get it all done because we've got this team of a few people. We have 3 people on our sustainability team here at Chipotle. But what we do is we have cross-functional teams, whether you're in marketing or supply chain or HR, no matter where you are, everybody, we say this all the time, and it's not responsible for sustainability, but everybody is engaged and everybody wants to be part of, again, cultivating a better world. It all feeds together in our purpose and our values. And so make sure that if you are in sustainability, that you're not operating on an island, and that you're trying to do things alone, because you won't get there. But also you're going to see how much people love to get involved. If it's something if you're in finance, right, and all day you're crunching numbers, and meeting the quarterly deadlines and all that, or payroll processing, but you have ideas around sustainability, like why are we printing paper? Why are we printing checks? Or why are we doing this? You've got to have an avenue for people to bring those ideas forward, and then you're going to be able to have that impact. So those would be the 2 things, is just, drive your career, be the one, do those innovative things that no one else wanted to do, or put your spin on it. And then, find cross-functional partners to help you achieve your goals.
Open arms.
That's right.
Open arms. Yeah. To embrace the purpose and embrace the vision. This has been an amazing conversation, and you are just, you're a rock star. So I am now, I think I've re-engaged with Chipotle. So of course, in my speeches and such, I'm going to embed you because I think it's great. And you're just hitting it on so many cylinders. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we have to say goodbye?
Thank you so much. First of all, I just really appreciate it. And, I'd say our journey, we're at the very beginning. It's very nice. I like I said, when I admired Chipotle from afar, I was like, wow, I had them on a pedestal and thought, how are they doing all these great things? And they did do it right the first time instead of, I've been at brands where you're trying to remove things and, argue with, NGO partners. And Chipotle has just been an incredible example of someone who did it right the first time. But we are very early in our journey, and there's so much more work to be done. And so I would just encourage everyone to, keep working at it. Again, when everybody works at something like, environmental issues, we're going to, it rises everybody up, right? It makes things a lot easier. So, I just appreciate that people are so passionate about sustainability, passionate about the environment and the impact that we can all have. And to be honest, the responsibility that we have. And so I guess I'll close by just saying, please remember to recycle, compost, whatever you can do, and continue to just think creatively because it's fun as well, right? That's what makes it all go around.
There you go. Super. Well, thank you, Laurie Schalow. It has been a wonderful conversation. I am so hungry, so I have to go out. I know where I'm having dinner tonight. And good luck with the new film.
Thank you.
I know people are going to love it. And the sustainability and purpose world is better because of you and your work.
Oh, thank you very much, Carol. Appreciate it.
So to our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation, and I know you did, please go to your favorite place. It might be Apple and iTunes and such, and just give us a review because we want more and more. This conversation is not just for sustainability experts. It's for all of us. It's for anybody in a company. And whether you're in the middle of your career or you're about to start out in your career, sustainability and purpose is something we all must understand as strategy and also take our individual part. So give us a 5-star, I hope, fingers crossed, and listen up. And of course, Laurie's going to want to hear from you. Let her know what you think of the new film. So thank you so much, Laurie, and good luck with its launch.
Thank you.